Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Friday, April 28th, 2023. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Friday, everyone. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. Big time push through the previous session's highs. Yesterday, a massive trend day up scenario. Stop run day up, as well as the midpoint pushes through the previous session's high and rallies to new highs here. Back toward the highs of the overall range here. We have a bit of an expanding range that's beginning to develop now, which opens the door to perhaps seeing a new high up above the previous session's high heading into next week. Right now, we are finishing a rather quiet April. Today's the last trading day of April. We flipped the page to May next month, next week. We'll have the new monthly pivots here, but this is basically the range for the entire month of April. We saw the entire range really put in over the last week and a half here, as we got a new high to a new low and bounced. But this is a rather quiet range. You can see the narrow pivot range that's developing heading into next week. This could open up a rather significant trending month up ahead. So if we spent most of the month up here, perhaps next month is a trending month that takes you back down, or perhaps it could be a trending month that takes you out of this range finally. But if this rejection at the lows is anything to consider here in terms of a rejection of this narrow range, you tend to move back to the opposite side of that range. So we could see, to begin May, a test up at this upper edge, failed new high perhaps at the monthly high, return to the mid, and maybe across the range could get things started early next month. So right now is kind of a fade after yesterday's trend day, holding at the moment within the very narrow range ahead of the RTH open. We still have economic data points to come out after the RTH open as well. But for the most part, we are seeing an upward flow here. Early pullback could be defended for an attempt higher for a checkmark trend day up scenario. A failure to hold the previous session's midpoints would be quite bearish and would open up a return back down. If we take a look here at the NQ, you'll see again right here a failure on the downside break, inside day, massive breakout to the upside. Initially, we were looking for a failed new high yesterday. A failed new high with a high range outside day down could have been in play. Something like this, for example, for another move down. Instead, when price pushed through that high, it really pushed through it. It led higher, the NQ, led higher the rest of the day, and reached the top of the range. So you go from the bottom of the range here, breaking down, failing at 12,800 even, and then snapping back for a move back toward 13,350. Tremendous move here. Still a super narrow range for the month of April, as we mentioned before. That's your monthly range so far for April. Super narrow intraday range right now going into the RTH open, just 34% of average. We could continue to see mostly range-bound action with an upward bias. So you got this big push up. The early pullback could be defended for a test at the edge, but you're mainly going to stay range-bound here today. A failure to hold yesterday's midpoint could open up a rotation back within the range. But inside the range, super narrow range for the month of April. There it is right there. By contrast, this was the range for March. And it is the current range is less than half of that. The midway point is here, never even got there. So it's almost a third of the previous month's range. So now we're going to be looking for something of this magnitude next month. Is it going to be to the upside? Do we fail up here and break to the downside and rotate back toward 11.8, for example? So we're still looking for a major breakout from this range. Super narrow range heading into next month's trading, but a breakout could be imminent to begin May. If we take a look here at crude oil, this one's up about 1/3 right now. And a fill of the gap already seen. Now price is holding, rest after battle, 2-day pattern here after a big sell-off, and just above the 72 lower edge of the range. So given the downtrend here, the expectation is for any strength here to be defended, especially into 76s for a shot at finishing this move into 72, perhaps down in the 70. And at some point here, this downtrend will come up to a point where we see a rejection or a reaction, something like this or this here, or something where we begin to see a reaction, and that could send us back up within the range toward 82, 83 again. So right now, still in a downward trend until proven otherwise. Looking at gold futures, gold right now up, rather down about 1/4%. Inside day at the moment, so narrow range inside day, 50% of average range. And look at this range that is developed. This is over 2 weeks long now. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 2 full weeks of range-bound action within a very narrow range of about 40 points. 40 points. It's been averaging 31 points per day, but it's only a 40-point range overall. So if we can quantify this down here, we'll put this as a 10-period range to quantify. If we take the look here, 56% of average, 47 total points of range. So it's going from that high to basically this low. So on a 10-day basis, you have a very, very narrow range with the potential to see about 100 points on a breakout move up ahead, maybe even more, 125 to 150 points. And again, a failure to hold 1980 and you fall 100 points easily puts you to 1880. You go 125, 150, and you start working your way down to about 1830, and that's the previous year's close in the bottom of the trading range. So that would be a 150-point move there. There could easily be about 150 points of range up ahead. Again, still inside the range. We could still add another day or two next month. As of right now, we have a higher value relationship, pivot range here, and then next month's pivot range is higher, but currently a bearish bias on the close, which means any rally early next month likely met with resistance as this thing goes for the previous month's low and perhaps through it. So right now, keeping an eye on this 10-day narrow range ahead of a potential breakout. Lastly, taking a look at the YM. The YM right now, inside day, narrow range. At the moment, this follows yesterday's high range day. So right now, if you look at the current one-day reading, 55% of average range right now, narrow range here. It's a bit of a fade after yesterday's trend day scenario. Big time bounce here though. That bounce and reversal was significant. Now holding here. We could see further range-bound action back and forth throughout the day. I will say if this thing starts to fall back below 33.7, right in here, previous sessions mid in that zone, it could open up a bit more weakness, but we're kind of stuck in this range here again heading into next month. You can see right now that price is currently precisely at the month's midpoint. The high, the low, the mid is here, and that's where the last price is. We are precisely at the middle of this month's range heading into next month. And when that happens, again, early next month, you're either going to make a quick move to this extreme or this extreme. And if it's to the upside, watching to see how it reacts. If it's to the downside, again, watching to see how it reacts. Eventually, a breakout from this range opens up additional movement ahead for the YM. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the weekend. Good luck. Trade well. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.